In Austria, we have Seth Bridson out of the United Kingdom. Lots of British players coming to us today. Good to see. In England, we have a familiar Brit who would probably prefer to be called Scottish, so much so that he put Scotland down as his location, even though he is in British Columbia. We have often on this broadcast described John Jameson in various ways, usually as some form of either the worst diplomacy player we've ever seen, the worst diplomacy player who's ever existed, or even the worst human that has ever existed. And there's some question as to whether this has been an exaggeration. And Markus, you've never met John Jameson before, correct?
That's correct. I'm excited to see this.
Do you think he's the worst person that has ever existed on the face of the earth?
I mean, I would need to meet him.
I'm not sure about that. In France, we have Nicolas Sahuguet, who is a former world champion and well known to both Siobhan and me. In Germany, we have Evan Hegerud out of Alberta, Canada. In Italy, we have Ethan Haluza Delay out of Ottawa. Lots of Canadians with us today, which I also like to see and at times wouldn't mind being neighbors with. In Russia, we have Eber Kondrel, who is a Windy City Weasel out of Chicago, a high school player, and someone whose skill has improved rapidly as he's played in the last couple of years. In Turkey, we have Alex Maslow out of Boston. Alex is well known to us in the face-to-face hobby, and we will, I'm sure, have some comment that gets a complaint later on in the broadcast. Let us go to the board, and here we are. Let's take a look at spring 1901 orders, and let's go to the East first in this case. Markus, you are up.
Okay. This is the most standard East I've ever seen, at least by online game standards. Bounce in Black Sea, bounce in Galicia, Italy setting up for a Lepanto, Austria doing standard Austria things, and the army in Smyrna going to Con is what you always see online. Well, almost always. So.
Wake me up when this one's over. Siobhan, let's go to you in the West.
The West is not much more exciting. We've got a bounce in Burgundy from the French player, which commits him to taking Spain with the army, so we're not going to see a fleet down in the Med. Liverpool goes to Yorkshire, giving him the possibility to cover London, which he doesn't need to, and Germany does, I think, what every Germany we've seen so far done.
The self-bounce in Burgundy is not something that you see very often.
No.
Can you say a bit about what the disadvantages are?
You lose a lot of flexibility with the self-bounce in Burgundy. You don't get a play for Belgium. You don't get the choice of whether you take Spain with the fleet or the army. You lose a lot of pace here, and I don't love it. But it's John Jameson, who is a big personality in this hobby, and he and Nicolas know each other fairly well. It's Nicolas in France.
Nicolas is the one.
That's even more curious. I don't usually see Nicolas slow play an opening this.
It's an opening that can really backfire if it's on Italy. If France goes to the English Channel, you're just fine. You can cover Brest if you want and still pick up 2. If Italy goes to Piedmont, then you got real problems, and you are almost certainly only going to get one build. All right, let's push ahead here and see how the fall works out. Markus, tell us what you see.
Okay, so we've got an AT forming here, blocking Russia out of Romania at the same time as Russia is seemingly, well, I would assume the Galicia was supposed to be a demilitarized zone here, and Russia pushed into it anyway. So Turkey stabbing the Russian most likely in this scenario. Italy still setting up for a Lepanto, so we'll have to see what Austria decides to go with here, because obviously Lepanto versus Turkey versus AT are not very compatible. I'm very surprised that the Austrian didn't bounce the Russian in Galicia or attempt to go to Galicia, given that they were committing to being anti-Russian. But maybe they were particularly concerned about the Italian moving into Trieste. I assume that would be the reason.
And this Austria doesn't get away with it because this Russia goes to Galicia, right? The other Austria.
Yep.
So, but again, I think we've seen this a couple times now. Austria getting Greece without support, without having to support himself in there. Okay, let's go to the West with Siobhan.
Nicolas moving his armies a little more effectively now, but that does not stop the German from getting 3 builds, which possibly early leader syndrome, give the board someone else to worry about. John Jameson, meh. I mean, he's not.
I mean, it's tough. It's tough when you've got such handicaps, right?
Yeah.
So
he's still learning this game, and he'll get there eventually. But John, come on, do something.
Yeah. What do you make of taking Norway with the fleet rather than convoying the army over?
You're making a friend in Russia, who's getting bounced out of Sweden. Russia doesn't have to worry about Army Norway pulling over to St. Pete. You got northern Norway. You got play on Skag, possibly anti-German or possibly just very non-committal. So we shall see.
In any case, it does not look like a Western triple in this, despite Germany getting the 3 builds. That's the only.
Yeah, Evan is the only one who's on board for the Western triple, apparently.
Yeah. All right, let's move ahead to builds and see what we got. Germany puts down fleet. Finally, I think only 2 of our 4 have done that, and but also puts down 2 armies. Seemingly, this looks like a play to get an EG on board, anti-French. Doesn't look like it was reciprocated. England puts down a fleet in Edinburgh. France commits to the north rather than the south, and in the rest, we see relatively standard, except for Turkey, who puts down an army in Constantinople, not a fleet. So Turkey has. This is actually a shocking move, given the fact that there was a convoy to Tunis. So there's a very soft underbelly here. These 2 fleet moves can both work, guaranteed. Turkey has set himself up for an extreme diplomatic task here.
This is not terribly atypical of Alex Maslow, who probably believes that he has everyone convinced to do something really wacky. And about 70% of the time, it does not work for him.
All right, let's see which let's see what side of the die comes up for Alex Maslow. And Markus, you're up first.
Okay. We see the Austrian moving against the Italian here, so that's very good for the Turk. Unfortunately, they've still got that fleet in the Eastern Med to deal with, which is going to be problematic. But they can just cover Smyrna with Constantinople, given... Wait, hang on. Why is the Russian in Romania? This doesn't work with the AC. Okay, well, I need to reevaluate. This is what happens when you just glance at a board and think, hey.
Just change one of the letters, that's all.
Yeah. So there's an AR in place, Austria-Russia alliance, pushing in here. Austria turning down the offer of Romania in order to work with the Russian. Turkey is in, a really bad spot here, except for the fact that now with Austria committing against Italy as well in this AR, they could get the Italian on side, but there's not a huge amount the Italian can do because that army is stuck in Tunis. It can't get convoyed out even now because there's nothing in Ionian Sea. And Venice is lost. So a really good turn for the Austrian probably, and really good negotiation from the Russian, I've got to assume, aside from seeing what's happening in the north, but I'll leave that to Siobhan.
Yeah, you rarely see an AR get a jump like this. We'll see. There's cracking Turkey open is hard for an AR, so we'll see how that works out. Siobhan, tell us about the West.
The West, what jumps out to me is Nicola is keeping those cards very close to the chest. He's got some issues with all of those German armies, but he's got no problem with John Jameson in England. And he's got a lot of options with those fleets. Does he drop Mao down into Western Med next turn, or does he go to Irish? John keeps his army on the island, which possibly makes that a little bit less enticing.
I mean, so we got another self-bounce in Burgundy. At least Nicola didn't self-bounce in Mao. I don't understand why Portugal holds here, though. You'd think if you want to keep your options open, you move to Spain here. There's really no...
But, I mean, depends on the Italian player. Some Italians get very jumpy if you put a fleet in Spain.
We called a game one time with John Jameson where he kept fleets in Mid-Atlantic and Portugal for about 4 game years, and we criticized him quite heavily for it. But I mean, that's the default posture.
Well, I mean, when John does it, it's a terrible idea. I think Nicola, in this case, it would be genius.
Yeah.
So
if Andrew Goff had done it, I mean, we would never stop talking about how
exactly. And I will say that former world champion Nicola, he's got a reputation, and so it's possible that this slow play is to just keep everyone kind of off his back for a few years.
The reputation of being a strong player, somebody you want to try to attack early. When we've seen Nicola play these games, he's been a very aggressive, actually, more aggressive than most of the other top players that we've seen. So it's interesting to see him backing off that a little bit here. All right, let's move on to fall of 1902, and Markus, back to you in the east.
All right. Okay, I will make sure to look at this properly this time. Not a huge amount going on. Was that a misorder on the Austrian part, supporting Venice to hold instead of supporting the move into Venice?
You
got to assume it is. Yeah, the Italian supports Armenia back to Smyrna, which seems weird. Why wouldn't you try to back off from Eastern Med and at least, use it on Ionian or use it to pull it back to Ionian? Austria completely backing off of the Turk. There's a lot weird going on here.
Yeah, this may just be less experienced players playing here, but you'd think Naples to Apulia, Eastern to Ionian would be a simple way to try to protect yourself and have the chance of regaining. But now he still can't even support a hold in Venice. So if Austria gets the moves right next time, then we'll do that fall. Okay, Siobhan, to you in the west.
What jumps out to me immediately is Germany has some serious problems. It appears to me that the fleet in St. Petersburg was probably agreed upon. Russia says, hey, I'll take that. You let me have Sweden. I wind up even, and I will put you into Denmark. Nicola supports himself into Burgundy, and the genius moves of Portugal and MAO holding.
What do you think of John Jameson picking up 2 dots here?
I think that's going to look really threatening to a lot of players on the board, and I think Nicola played it really well. I don't need the dots now. They'll be there for me later. Make someone else look threatening. Germany got 3 and 0-1, so currently everyone's scared about that. Then John's going to jump up. Everyone's going to react to that, and Nicola, I think, will get the spoils in the long run.
Yeah, John Jameson getting 2 builds in 0-2 feels a little bit like a singularity that will engulf all of us. So let's find out. Yeah, I mean, props to John, right? In terms of tactics, this is really nice. You're supporting somebody in Sweden that you're also attacking in St. Petersburg, and using that to harm somebody else at the same time. So John Jameson sticking the knives, doing a tornado knife dispersal technique. All right. In the builds, winter 1902 finds another army and a fleet now for England, and I'm not seeing a build anywhere else on the board.
That's it.
So Germany picked up 2 and lost 1. Why doesn't? Oh no, sorry. Germany picked up 1, lost 1 because he got 2 in 01.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what kind of turn is it when only John Jameson builds?
A mistake of the highest order, I think.
And we got 2 new units from John, and that was it. All right. Markus, let's hear about the East starting now.
All right. I can't exactly remember what people were doing last phase. I think it was that the Austrian tried to attack the Italian. Well, I mean, as you can see here, they're continuing that attack with...
right. It was
successfully.
A missed order here from Trieste. Yeah. Okay.
And I guess they were all just holding out on the other front until they could make a decision. But now Austria has made that decision. Russia has worked with them, and then there's not a huge amount Turkey can do about that to keep Bulgaria. Cracking the rest of Turkey is going to be quite difficult here, I think. Without, particularly because there's no way the Italian is going to work with them again. So moving that fleet out of Greece is going to be difficult. But we'll see whether they can manage it.
All right, Siobhan, tell us about the West.
I always love to see a little unit shuffle, and that triangle between Sweden, Baltic, and Denmark is just nice and pretty. Let's see, France takes Belgium. Agreed, maybe. And we get a little mini Yorkshire pudding on the island.
And we get some Dipsy Doodle in Scandinavia.
Yeah.
All right, let's. You ready? Then let's move forward and see the fall order. Siobhan will stick with you.
Alrighty, after all of that, let's see. John tries to take Denmark back, completely fails. Yeah, it looks like the giving Belgium to the French was agreed on. And yeah, there's just some dipsy doodle in Scandinavia that needs to be resolved, but
it's to Russia's detriment. So England and
yes,
England stays even. Germany picks up one, and Russia goes down one.
That is correct.
Rough game for Eber here so far. Although he's picking up Bulgaria, so he will be
and Warsaw.
And Warsaw, so he will get a build here. Fantastic. I'm sorry, we are stepping on Marcus's toes. Marcus, is there anything else of interest in the East?
I mean, the Sevastopol moving out to Romania is pretty clearly so that, well, I assume so that a second fleet could be built there and they can knock Turkey out of the Black Sea. We'll see whether they go through with that, because that is a bit committing a bit heavily for Russia, who's got one fleet stuck somewhere they can't do anything with it in Bothnia, and they'll have two southern fleets then, which can only go against Turkey, but. It might work out.
A 3-fleet, 2-army Russia.
Yeah, and the other interesting thing, Austria backs out of Venice voluntarily. So clearly saying, okay, this attack isn't something I want to do anymore. Please, Italy, forgive me. Let me kill Turkey, and then I'll come and kill you later. And we'll have a happy time.
I will say that John Jameson has joined the chat, and he has told us that the Belgium was not agreed upon.
Okay, so, but Belgium is German here, yeah? What do you mean?
Yeah, so France took it from Germany without permission.
Oh, I see. Okay, but so Nicolas finally growing here, and still looks like the EF with a dagger sitting in the back pocket, not doing anything. Okay, let us move ahead. Winter finds another fleet in the south for France, likely presaging a full-on assault. Which actually makes Austria's backing off of Italy potentially more fruitful in terms of board balance, even if it doesn't mean a build for him. And in the east, we do have that the Southern Fleet from Weasel Iberkondrel, and this poses some problems for Turkey. And with Austria free, actually, of Italian threat, Turkey actually this is a way to crack Turkey, I should say. Okay, why don't we stick in the east? Marcus, tell us about it.
Okay, well, we see the Russian managing to lose Sevastopol here. Well, the Turk managing to take Sevastopol would be the better way to put that. But they do get into Black Sea. They have the retreat to Romania, and they have the unit in Moscow here, so should be able to retake it. It's just a case of the Turk managing to hold out for a little bit longer. Austria not trusting Italy, keeping that fleet in Greece instead of moving it to the Aegean, and it looks like that's with, well, is that with good reason? The move to Adriatic could be defensive here, but it may be a bit problematic for Italy given the French fleets coming, although those French fleets don't look like they'll necessarily go against the Italian.
I mean, this is lots of curiosity in the West, lots of H's hanging around. Siobhan, tell us about it.
It appears that John Jameson has misordered completely, but he is also the worst player I've ever come across.
So you expect it, right? It could easily be deliberate, is what you're saying.
Yeah, Nicolas joined the chat, and he says that Belgium was agreed upon. So, and I will believe Nicolas over John because he was involved in that negotiation.
Okay.
John has some issues coming up. Loses Sweden, German move to Helgoland, France is not pulling MAO away. Yeah, that's the right thing to do, Nicolas and Evan.
I mean, MAO holding is pretty curious, right? Like if he moves to North Africa here, then he has Tunis, and the fleet just isn't doing anything. Maybe he was spooked by this move to Clyde, which we actually didn't spend any
Yeah,
time
the move
about
to Clyde might have spooked him. I have confirmation from John that this was a misorder.
the NMRs, basically.
Yeah.
A costly misorder because this is not a unit that could be taken, and now it can't be taken. It could be taken back, actually, but not without risking North Sea. So, all right, let's see what happens here. Let's stick in the west with you, Siobhan. Tell us about it.
Nicola does nothing. John pulls Clyde back, possibly part of that conversation about it spooking Nicola, so he says, okay, I don't need to be there. John retakes Sweden, loses North Sea, which is painful.
And retreats to
Skagerrak.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that misorder cost a lot, and it's going to take him a while to regain position.
And it entrenches Germany and England in a conflict that it will be difficult to unwind. Whereas, I think if John had retreated to English Channel, then he could try to make an argument to Germany that they work together. But maybe losing North is just a bridge too far for him.
Yeah.
England. Okay, let's go to the east, Markus.
Okay, so we've got. I really like the French play here. Like staying in mid-Atlantic Ocean instead of pushing on Tunis has let the Italian go back east again, and France can still just as easily jump him if he feels like it. Obviously, Austria saying, okay, Italy, yeah, you went to Adriatic, I can understand that as a defensive move, I'll trust you and go to Aegean, and then bam, suddenly the Italian is right back on his back door again, and this attack against the Turk, it probably will work, because they're now in position to push against the Turk pretty hard. But it's still going to be very awkward for the Austrian having to do that and defend against the Italian at the same time.
Yeah, these are moves that should have happened in the spring.
Yep.
And Eber gave up the Black Sea here in a way that just was completely unnecessary. There was just no reason to do this.
I mean, it was to... Oh, yeah, no, because he should have just supported the move.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is, the good players like to talk about using units to cut supports rather than merely support. But this is the case where it's much better to issue the support rather than to try to cut. And for the exact reason that you see here. Okay, let us move forward. Spring of 1905. So I guess there were no builds. Spring of 1905. Let's stay in the east. Markus, what do you got?
Okay, so Russia retaking Black Sea again, but they're pulling out of Armenia to do it, which is... it makes attacking Turkey even more awkward. Turkey manages to get into Bulgaria here, which is pretty big. It looks like there might have been some attempt to make an agreement between Russia and Turkey, but I don't think that was a good idea, given that Russia has 2 fleets down there, pretty committed. If they were making an agreement, they should have tried to take one of them off the board. Italy moving around to the eastern Mediterranean and the Ionian looks like setting up for a Lepanto-style play, so maybe they weren't against the Austrian after all. But at the same time, we see France get the jump on them and go into Tyrrhenian and Western Meds.
Why not move Mid-Atlantic? Mid-Atlantic has not accomplished any. This is now 2 years in a row that he could have guaranteed himself Tunis.
I think he's guaranteed himself Tunis regardless. Keeping Mid-Atlantic Ocean held is great because it keeps his options open still.
Yeah. I'm actually coming around to Mid-Atlantic hold. It actually reminds me a lot like the Ionian hold from Corey in the Royale game last week.
Yeah, you're right. I take it back completely. Yep. But I don't know. I don't take it back completely because if he had moved this... I mean, I guess the thing he has to worry about if he moves this is that a fleet gets dislodged from north and goes to the English Channel, and then his position is difficult to defend. But if he had moved this now, he would be able to take Tunis and take a swipe at Naples or Rome. He would have impenetrable position in the south. He'd be able to rebuild that unit very quickly in Brest. So I don't know, you guys. In terms of unit efficiency, this is not strong. In terms of strategic efficiency, it may be better. Go ahead, Markus. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's the same case as we've seen in a lot of games. If France commits everything to the south, they get Tunis, and maybe in like 5 years they'll get Rome and Naples. But Keeping it at mid-Atlantic Ocean means he could just support Tyrrhenian Sea into Tunis here, try and make peace with the Italians, say, okay, I'm just going to hold on to Tunis, or guess to try and bounce the Italian if the Italian comes back, and move mid-Atlantic Ocean up to North Atlantic, Western Med back to Mao, get that stab position on, go for the extra supply centers. I like it a lot.
Okay, cool. Let's see how it goes. Fall 1905, and Siobhan, let's go to you in the West.
All right. He does take Tunis. Mao holds again. We've got some movement around the North Sea that results in swapping centers between Germany and England and taking the North back. But England also loses Sweden, so England will be down.
Down 1. Okay, in
Down
the East?
2, because St. Pete.
Oh, very good. Very good. Markus, what about the East?
Yeah. On the Eastern Front, it's just a case of getting back into the position they should have been in already, aside from managing to take Smyrna, which is good for the Italian. They managed to keep all their units. And the Turk is going to die, but it's taken a lot longer than it should have because of these suboptimal Russian moves around the Black Sea. It's still a very good turn for Russia because of the North.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then let's move ahead into winter 1905. Here we see Russia put down 2 armies. We see France put down an army, which is interesting. Suggests that he is more interested in making inroads on the German centers than in stabbing England, which just again makes me wonder why. What good the fleet is doing there, but I'll get off of that. I wonder, like, at some point tempo becomes important, right? Like sometimes slowing yourself down pays off in strategic dividends, and sometimes it just slows you down and let somebody on the opposite side of the board get position. And I mean, let's talk about who you want to be in this case. It's between Russia and France as far as I can tell. Who would you guys prefer to be? Siobhan, we'll start with you.
I think Russia. Nikolai is obviously a world-class player, and I think he can do a lot with his position, but he is being very, very slow, and I think Russia just has more in the long run.
Markus, what about you?
I think I'd take France. I do agree it's between Russia and France. Russia is in a very good position as well, but I don't see where the Russian SCs come from going forward. They could come from Germany, but Germany can potentially defend that. They get a couple from Turkey, and then they're kind of stuck on that front. And if they attack the Austrian, they're not going to get anywhere because of that line of armies. So I would take the French position. It's just a little bit more potential in my eyes.
Okay, let's push ahead and see how it works. And Markus, start with you in the East.
All right, so we do see Turkey managing to dislodge that Italian fleet. They are still going to die. It's just a case of this opens up the potential for Austria-Russia to get the advantage on Italy, which looks like it's exactly what's going to happen with that pivot around Tyrolia-Piedmont. Tyrolia-Piedmont, Trieste, getting ready to get Venice. Very good for the Frenchmen.
Finally, right? Venice can now be guaranteed.
Yep. This is like I said earlier. I'll back off you. Let me kill Turkey, and then I'll come and kill you. But we do also see the Russian armies moving on Austria. So maybe, this actually looks like a pretty bad situation for Austria because I think this is where those Russian SCs are going to come from.
Siobhan, what do you see in the West?
In the West, there's not much happening. John does absolutely nothing. Helgeland takes Denmark, so John will be down another dot. And, maybe. Depends on whether Germany decides to defend Munich or Denmark.
And there's also, it's a 50-50 between Norway and Denmark, which one Sweden holds on to.
Yeah.
Supports. Okay. This is a fascinating moment, and it seems to me that the balance is really kind of even between France and Russia. I think you guys articulated good arguments for both. Strategically, France has a better situation because they're not nobody is really attacking them. But the question is, what comes next? And Russia does have a lot of growth potential here, potentially. Those are very juicy dots, and they're picking up 2 definitely down here. But there's a guess over, if they want to attack, there's a guess over Serbia, Bulgaria. Okay, let us move forward then and see what happens. And we'll start in the east with Markus. Tell us about it.
Oof. Well, Austria loses the guess, although they didn't even really go for the guess. Russia could have taken Serbia guaranteed here. The Austria continues their attack against Italy, which seems a little misguided with Russia setting up behind them, but it's very possible they believed that Russia was going to stick with them here. Turkey manages to hang on to that 1 dot, so they're going to stay in the game a little bit longer. But Russia teaming up with Italy against Austria, it looks like this might be Russia's game to lose. They've managed to, well, they're going to be really solidly ahead after this turn, and they still have a lot of dots to take.
So they did suffer a setback in the west, the north part of the west. Siobhan, tell us about it.
Yeah, Russia just didn't have enough units committed to the north to be able to defend it. Well done, John, for convincing Germany to take Sweden from Denmark, because that means you get to keep Denmark and all your units, and just funnel those German armies up. And yeah, we've got a late game Western triple in the making.
All right, let's see. Let's push forward now and see how it works out in the winter. So Russia's going to get 2 builds here. Is up 3, down 1. I believe. Let's see. England does not pull because
Denmark walked out.
Denmark out, but France still has not grown. Although France did pick up Ionian, which is no small matter. Did finally move Mid-Atlantic to West. Finally decided that the strategic situation in the West. I mean, the bogeyman of Russia has given him the security to do that, and also the strategic incentive to keep England and Germany on board. All right, winter, we find a couple new armies. Really not much choice, although if we had seen a fleet down here, then we would have at least had the joy of exclamation. We have Germany popping down an army. So Germany gets a build. Congratulations, Germany. Look dead in the water. Look completely dead in the water. And
nicely done, Evan.
In the game. So nice recovery, Evan. And the question is, what Austria and Italy kind of have little king-making options here. That said, Russia in Eber, Eber forgot that he was looking desperate in the early part, wasn't he?
Oh, there's a huge
really
comeback story in this. Someone in the comments mentioned that they had left the stream for a while and came back, and we're like, wait, how did that happen?
All right, let's. It'll look funny when these segments are edited together. Because it won't seem, it'll be like 10 minutes later in our analysis. Okay, let's push forward here. Spring 1907. Let's start in the east. Markus, tell us about it.
All right, so it looks like Turkey has decided to just play vassal to Russia in the hope that Russia leaves him alive. Might work. Russia always has that potential to just walk into Smyrna if they want to. But that extra fleet on that front is going to be helpful against France. We see Italy just trying to get their centers back. Pretty annoyed at Austria, I'd imagine, and playing vassal to France, essentially, in the process. And Austria just doing what they can to hang on to their homes, but that looks a little bleak with the Russian units coming in. Obviously, Russia managing to block that move to Cilicia is quite strong as well, but I'll leave that to you guys.
Yeah, Siobhan, tell us about it.
Yeah, the bounce in Silesia is huge, and well done, Eber, for sniffing that one out. France is making some movement, deciding not to go for Naples right now. We'll see what he does in the fall. John takes Norway from Germany. I wonder if that was planned. I don't know, but it's John, so probably not, and he's probably just being a jerk.
Well, Germany, St. Petersburg is guaranteed.
St. Petersburg guaranteed.
So John should get a build here. Delicious. What's it going to be? He'll probably write Army Warsaw or something, just because it's very John Jameson to do. Okay, let's push ahead to the fall here and start with you, Siobhan. Tell us about the West.
Yeah, absolutely. John does absolutely nothing except for supporting Finland into St. Pete. Eber wasn't even trying to defend it. Little dipsy doodle around Budapest. Oh, I'm in the east. Why am I in the east?
Because that's where all the units are.
That's where all the units are, and it's interesting. Yeah, Nicola marches Marseille, Piedmont into Tyrolia, takes Naples, indeed. And
sorry, 1 second.
that's about. Let me continue on with the east then.
Yeah. Yep.
There's a little dipsy doodle around Vienna, Galicia, Budapest, which I always love seeing those. They're just delightful.
Yeah, but I'm not sure I understand why Budapest didn't just support Galicia into Vienna. This would have netted Eber another dot here. This is a.
That's a really curious question.
I suppose he might have been worried that Serbia would go to Budapest. But so what? So what if it does?
Yeah. But I mean, the net of it is he takes Serbia, and they get the Turk into the Ionian.
This may be a misorder that costs Eber the board top.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how this goes, but this is a little actually painful to see.
Yeah.
France, so now is when Nicola stakes his claim to the board top. He's got great position in all places. He doesn't have a problem on the north unless he does, right?
Unless he does.
Unless John Jameson creates one. Let's see if that happens. Army London, no. Boo. Boo. Boo.
Oh. Boo.
If there's one thing about John that that we normally don't say, it's that he is boring, and this is a
it's not
boring
ever
build.
That we say about John.
This is a boring build. And Nicola puts down another fleet, which is interesting. You could have made the argument for an army here to drive into Germany and clinch the board top, but clearly looking for to secure the other German centers, I suppose, or the Italian centers, I suppose. Yeah. Okay, anywhere else on the board? Just have some disbands from Austria. Just trying to hold on for dear life. So Turkey may not get eliminated first, right?
That would actually
which matters under Carnage. All right, let us see spring of 1908. Marcus, if you're ready to give us some words, then drop.
So again, Turkey just continues this vassal play, which works out perfectly for them. Russia moving away from that front, taking Greece, which is actually huge. I mean, they could have done it anyway with the support, but they managed to do it unsupported here. Russia pulling the Italian unit into Trieste is quite an interesting one as well. And it looks like France tried to stop that from happening, but Austria sabotaged themselves by moving that unit. So Austria is almost certainly going to be out of this game first, with Romania also pushing into Budapest. Russia loses Warsaw here because of Austria's sort of screw you move of moving to Galicia to cut the support. So, yeah, we seem to...
and Germany's going to keep it, we should say.
Yeah.
So this is a direct result of Eber not taking Vienna properly last turn. If he takes Vienna properly, he's got both of these dots secured, and then then he's not in Galicia. He loses Warsaw. He loses Warsaw no matter what in that case. But at least he'd have another unit in Sevastopol that could help out in some way.
Yeah.
Okay. Let us. I'm sorry. Did you already do the West? I think it's clear.
No, we didn't. The only thing of note is Germany supports Denmark into Baltic, and John convoys an army into Denmark right behind him. So
the question is, what is his plan? Is he angling for a shot at the board top through the German centers? That's a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's keep going here. Adam tipping his hand there. He's about to come back on. A little over eager. And all right, fall 1908. Let's reveal, and let's start in the East, because that's where lots of activity is, and then there is an interesting thing in the West. Marcus, what do you got?
Yeah, so the East, it appears that Russia's gambit of supporting Italy into Trieste definitely paid off. The Italian is now on his side, as far as I can see. But at the same time, it looks like Turkey's flipped to the French side now, taking Venice, and they're going to be able to build, which is horrible for Russia. the Turkish getting that army down. It's a fantastic play by France and Turkey. Russia gets pushed out of Greece by by an arranged move into the Ionian, but I think France has to be happy with this turn. It's fantastic.
This is spectacular play. It's hard to imagine this turn having gone any better for Nicolas. So, to the extent that he organized that diplomatically, well done. Siobhan, any what happens in the West of note?
In the West of note is that John does indeed use that unit in Denmark to take something off of Germany. Was it planned? Germany's just walking out. Who knows? I guess John's just angling for a few more dots. And we say goodbye to both Italy and Austria before Turkey.
Right, both of them. Curious play up in the north by Evan in Germany. Not sure what. I guess he needed. Well, he didn't need. Well, I guess he did need it to hold on to Warsaw, but he guesses wrong and loses St. Petersburg.
Loses St. Pete is the result. Yeah.
This is actually. I mean, apart from the potential strategic disaster of having Turkey turn, this could actually, if Russia can keep Turkey on side, this could actually work out pretty well.
I will point out I was wrong. Italy has Trieste, so we say only goodbye to Austria this turn.
Thank you.
They also keep Greece because they pushed the Russian unit through into the Ionian.
Oh, he led from Greece, not a. I take that back. I take back what I just said about Eber. This this is not a great turn. If he had taken Greece and either taken Smyrna or Ionian while keeping Turkey on side, that's a totally different story. But if you're Turkey, I don't think there's any reason to under Carnage to go after Russia here.
No.
So to make things interesting.
Because
Let's see what happens. We got a fleet. All right, you're Russia. You got to feel good about that. Okay, and then the question is there any reason to think that France can be made to lose a dot here? But can France gain anything, or can Russia hold? Russia is going to get Warsaw back. Actually, Russia
takes Warsaw back. France could get Venice.
Could Russia get Trieste here? Maybe. It depends on what happens with these. Yeah, and then Venice. Yeah. All right. Let's see what happens. In spring of 1909. Siobhan, tell us about the West, which has lots of arrows.
A lot of action. France does indeed take Venice. Setting up in position to possibly make a play for Holland, which England has taken from Germany. Oh, John's taken a lot of stuff this turn. He takes Holland, he takes Sweden. Germany pulling back to deal with the French and English issue, which is only good for Eber.
Yep.
And yeah.
And in the East, Markus. Suddenly all the units, it's like a seesaw, right?
Yep. I think Russia's strategy of keeping people alive is really paying off here. We see Italy pushing him forward, Italy helping him out in Ionian Sea, Turkey deciding to stick with him despite France putting Turkey in Venice. That's just really good diplomacy on the Russian front. And it looks like, well, he can still take those centers anytime he likes, Greece and Smyrna, and potentially use them to board top. But it's definitely going to hurt the French chances that Italy and Turkey are working against him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't think France can keep Venice, correct? No, he can't. Well, it depends. If they were willing to risk Ionian, then they could guarantee it.
It depends, yeah.
But even so, Eber still lands on top in the current, as things currently go.
I'm rooting for you, Eber.
Okay, so let's see, fall of 1909, and let's start. Markus, tell us about the Eastern Powers, what they do.
So the Eastern Powers, with regard to, I'm trying to figure out what Piedmont is doing there, which isn't really an Eastern Power, but he's a.
It has to be a misorder.
Yeah,
it's probably wanted to support the hold, but
that's an incredibly painful misorder because that costs France Venice. He wouldn't lose Venice otherwise. And France doesn't even manage to take Ionian Sea here, which is painful as well because he uses Adriatic to try and hold Venice. Elsewhere, the Russian is just pushing forward against the German, but also helping the German. So I guess pushing forward to prop the German up, but not a huge amount of movement anywhere else, and that's good for the Eastern powers.
Yeah, this is looking like Eber's game now, and well, let's. In fact, it is Eber's game because this is going to be the final center count right here. Eber drops just to note. Eber drops another fleet in the south, and this is the final center count. So Eber tops this board at 12-9 over former world champion Nicolas Sahuguet. Let's give a hand to.
Nicolas says in the comments that the Venice hold misorder. And that was really why he called the draw in the end. He was like, that was debilitating.
Yeah.
But I don't think he wins this game even without that, even if he keeps Venice.
It would have been 11-10 instead of 12-9.
And
Russia has 2 in tow from Greece and Smyrna, and potentially 3 with Trieste, but that's a harder one to take if Italy doesn't want you to have it. But yeah, I think this was fantastically played from Russia all around.
And that comeback was... could we get to 18?
Well, given these builds from from John Jameson, yeah,
and yes,
I would not think Russia could get to 18 here. Then maybe they could push into Berlin or Munich and hold it, but Rome, Naples, Tunis is a really hard line to break completely. Tunis in particular is never going to be Russian here. So,
but if these two fight, then yes. I mean, yes, then it's German centers. Yeah. So.
Okay.
So, all right. So Ebert seems to me did a better job than Nicolas of using the smaller powers to his advantage. So this feels to me like a diplomatic victory. Would you guys agree with that?
For sure. If Turkey builds an army instead of a fleet there, it's a completely different game. So Russia managing to keep all the small powers on their side is a fantastic play.
Yeah, I know. I absolutely agree. I think Eber probably diplomed a fantastic game. I think Nicolas also had the handicap of having John Jameson in his theater. And there were some moments where I think that actually really did make a problem for Nicolas.
I'll be honest. The loss of tempo from leaving Mao at home. I mean, it's a counterfactual. You don't know if he had moved it, whether that would have invited some danger from England and Germany. But with England and Germany fighting so much, I think Nicolas was never in a position to hold on to gains in the east and make gains in the north.
Yeah,
and Eber for his sake made enough gains in the south to outweigh the fact that he didn't make gains in the north. But he did manage to hold off any incursions, or at least he lost St. Pete and then recovered it. Correct?
Yeah.
But he managed to do all of this without losing that fleet, right? Like if he loses this fleet, then he does not top this board. So, and Markus, you were arguing in favor of the Mid-Atlantic hold earlier. Do you still feel that way?
Yeah, I still feel that way. I don't think France would have taken much more on the south if they'd have moved the fleet east earlier. I think, in fact, they would have taken less because they would have turned Italy against them, and the main reason they could take this much was that Italy was heading the other way. So I like the Mao hold. I think almost maybe the only mistake with Mao was moving it to Western Med when they did, instead of just holding it there longer and seeing if they could make the jump at England at some point. But...
All right, so that's great. So it wasn't that the problem wasn't that he held Mid-Atlantic, it's that he didn't hold it long enough.
Yeah, I think so.